So good afternoon and happy end of July, everybody. I know that people are like, it's gonna take a little bit of time to let people get into the room. So I'm gonna start with introducing myself. I'm Gigi Davis, the Job and Internship Coordinator at Piedmont Virginia Community College. We are so extremely fortunate to have two wonderful alumni who are here today to talk about their experience with the State Department, both as in an internship as well as in an entry-level civil service career pathways, which he's going to be wonderful to discuss a variety of different pathways to get into the United States State Department. That is our central place for us in diplomacy and having a world presence. So of course, there are opportunities both in the United States as well as abroad with the Foreign Service, but we're mostly going to focus on what's here in the States, but briefly tell you how to get connected with Foreign Service types of opportunities. So I'm going to let Vegas kick it off with introducing himself, and then Alina will go to you to have you introduce yourself and your experience, and if you guys can share both of your experiences, both before PVCC, during PVCC, and beyond PVCC, because you guys are both huge go-getters in your career trajectories. So I'm going to be quiet now. And thanks for being here. For everybody on the call, if you have questions, put them in the chat, and I will share those, with Alina and Vegas as they come up. Okay, and just throw them in the chat. Thanks.
Thank you, Gigi, for that introduction. I will try to live up to how awesome you made us sound. My name is Vegas Curry. I'm a 2009 graduate of PVCC. I studied police science here, which is not a transfer degree. So in addition to that coursework, I studied political science and sociology and psychology to be able to transfer to University of Virginia. I did my undergraduate work. I continued my undergraduate work at the University of Virginia, receiving my bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies. My focus was on women and gender issues. I wrote my capstone project on human trafficking in the Black Sea region using a ton of data from the State Department. I continued transitioned into my career. I worked as a police officer for 2 years, and then I applied to graduate school at Tulane University in New Orleans, Louisiana. I studied Homeland Security Studies, and I focused on emergency management, and I did my thesis on leadership in complex hazmat environments. From there, I worked in law enforcement support roles. So I was a criminal intelligence analyst. I did some research work with the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism on a DARPA project. I worked at FEMA temporarily, which is what most people in emergency management want to do, and realized that I wanted to be in the field and do a little bit more work than administrative work. I worked for DC government in their Homeland Security and Emergency Management Office for a year before finding out about this opening at State Department, where I'm a student trainee IT information technology. So I'm being groomed and trained for a permanent civil service position. I have the same responsibilities as my civil service counterparts with projects and deadlines and things that I need to get done, but I'm still in the training phase.
All right, so I definitely don't have that many experiences, hi, my name is Alina. I am a student at UVA. I'm a fourth year, majoring in global development studies, concentrating in Middle East and South Asia, and minoring in history. So before PVCC, I actually graduated from Charlottesville High School and then transitioned to PVCC for about 1.5 years. I actually didn't graduate from from PVCC, but I did most of my general studies at PVCC, and then I went to UVA. I did this internship with the VSFS from December until May of this year, actually. And it was a really great experience because I was able to gain a lot of leadership skills, as well as, like any other opportunities within the internship that they had. So I will probably go into more details later on, but I'm really super excited to be here, and I will pass it on to Gigi again.
Already in the chat, there's like somebody commented, like, quite an impressive career there in Vegas. So, and of course, if anybody has questions for Alina about how she transferred before to UVA before even getting her associate's degree, those would be because she actually transferred mid-year, as if I recall correctly, which some people don't even realize that's a possibility to apply competitively for a mid-year transfer. So, so we can, but we're going to let Vegas kick it off with a presentation that may answer quite a few questions. And then of course, do feel free to put your questions in the chat. So Vegas, take it away.
Okay, so I have a PowerPoint put together. I will go through it really quickly because I want to focus on questions, and I just want to make sure I have the option to share screen. I apologize for that. So this presentation will focus on careers related to internship and fellowship programs and the virtual internship program. And my name is Vegas T. Curry. So specifically, two of the programs I'm going to speak about today are related to the Foreign Service. And the majority of this presentation is going to be related to civil service, domestic internships. So if you want more information related to foreign service officers, there is a diplomat in residence specifically for students interested in becoming foreign service officers later after they graduate. George Sibley is the diplomat in residence for Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. He can be reached on the careers.state.gov website. All of his information is there, and you can make an appointment to speak with him to get more information specifically for foreign service officers or students interested in becoming foreign service officers. So internships and fellowships. Really, if you understand the careers.state.gov website and you know how to use that information, you will find everything you need to know about how to find internships, get on a listserv to get the job openings at midnight when they come out. Actually, it's 12:07 because it has to go through security before the email gets out. So I receive updated information when jobs post at 12:07 every time they post. And I try to make sure people that I'm close with are aware of this information if they're not on the listserv. So if you want to open a link to careers.state.gov, you can follow along in this presentation, and I'll get you the information that you need to know or things you need to click on or add your name and email address to get more information. A little about where I work. This video was created some years ago, but it's still accurate. The equipment's a little outdated, but our mission. So I work in the Bureau of Information Resource Management, and the specific office I work in is the National Nuclear Risk Reduction Center. And let me get this to play. Let me mute myself.
So Vegas, you're muted, so we're not hearing anything.
Oh, I apologize.
Nuclear Risk Reduction Center is a communication center here in the State Department that operates to communicate with countries around the world where we have special treaty relationships, where we are communicating to implement arms control treaties, whether it's a strategic arms reduction treaty, now we have the New START treaty, or a conventional treaty like the Citizenship treaty. The role of the NERC is very important because we are an interagency resource. We support the entire U.S. government in all matters pertaining to arms control and international security communication. The NERCs were established to help exchange arms control information, to help prevent any misunderstanding, help prevent any miscalculation, help prevent any misinterpretation of something like a missile launch, so that we know when the Russians are going to do a test launch or the Russians know when we're going to do a test launch. The NERC is active, supporting over 14 different treaties and agreements in 6 different languages, including the Convention Armed Forces Treaty of Europe, the Chemical Weapons Convention, and most importantly, the New START Treaty. This is our main NERC Watch Center, where we monitor all treaty communications. Here we would have communications officers monitoring communication circuits. Back here, we have watch officers monitoring various conventional and strategic arms control treaties. And this giant video wall allows our watch officers to work collectively together and to share information and notice when new and urgent information is communicated to the NERC. The NERC transmits or receives over 7,000 treaty notifications per year, and that translated to roughly 15,000 government-to-government messages per year.
One of the notifications that we receive is when the Russians inform us that they will be testing one of their ballistic missiles through a launch. So what happens is a communications officer will receive the notification, pass it off to a bilateral watch officer, will translate it, create a DISM cable. This is reviewed by the front office and then transmitted by the watch officer. The communication goes to a number of different parties, including the National Military Command Center, as well as other interested parties here at the Department of State.
Hello, this is the Nuclear Risk Reduction Center. Yes, this is. Well, I know I can always count on the NERC because if I have a requirement in the dead of night to get in touch with the Russian Federation for some reason, the NERC is available no matter what, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that is why it's so important. It's in some ways similar to the hotline that has existed since the Cuban Missile Crisis that allowed the two countries, at that time the Soviet Union and the United States, to always be in touch between the two leaders if a nuclear crisis arose.
On September 11, when the network goes down, this was the only network that we were able to communicate with the Russian president. The Deputy Secretary came and requested NERC send a goodwill message to notify the Russians that we were increasing our defense readiness condition. And he wanted to let the Russians know that this was not directed toward them and avoided any misunderstanding.
The New START Treaty has an extensive series of notifications that are really going to keep track of what's going on inside the Russian strategic nuclear forces as a missile moves from a production facility into deployment, as it goes from a deployment site on a base into maintenance. All of those moves are going to be notified, so they will be passed through the Nuclear Risk Reduction Center. The notification regime is one of the core foundations for the verification of the New START Treaty. Without those notifications, we're not going to get the picture of the Russian strategic nuclear forces that we would get otherwise. So the NERC is key to the implementation of the New START Treaty.
In my Air Force career, I started as a missile launch officer. So I knew what it meant to go to work every day with the possibility that I was going to launch my missiles towards our enemies. Working here at the NERC is very rewarding because I have a chance to help make sure that we never have to launch those missiles.
So it's a little bit about my office. I apologize for the 5-minute video. I just wanted to be clear of what we do. So specifically, I forgot to mention earlier that I am a U.S. Navy vet. The ship I was stationed on was the Harry S. Truman. I generally joke around with my coworkers about how I made it from the Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier to the Harry S. Truman building, which is the headquarters of the State Department in Washington, D.C. And I explained my journey earlier. The majority of my education was at Piedmont Virginia Community College. That was the foundation that I built everything else on. So it's a great community college, awesome professors, great opportunity to build a strong GPA. And if you want to intern while you're a student, that's a possibility. I'm trying to point out some ways you can. Once you matriculate, or if you matriculate into a four-year university, it's a great place to work, start as a student trainee like I am, or apply once you graduate.
And so that's something that I was just going to say that we talked about earlier, but I just wanted to highlight that some positions don't absolutely require the bachelor's degree now, but to get better pay, a bachelor's degree will get you that better pay, correct?
Correct. I want to say, I don't have the information in front of me, but I have a pretty good memory. GS4 pay, maybe it's $35,000 to require for DC. It will change depending on the zip code where the position is. But the majority of our positions are domestically are in Washington, DC. We have passport offices regionally, Arizona, Louisiana, California. But for DC, I want to say it's $35,000, and the requirement is 2 years above high school, which is an associate's degree. Or in some cases, you went to community college for 2 years and didn't graduate. That's still 2 years of education based on your transcripts. So not all of our positions necessarily require a bachelor's degree or a degree period, but there may be a requirement of years beyond high school. And you have to prove that with some type of transcripts.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So the position I'm currently in as a career changer, going from law enforcement and emergency management to IT, I'm in the pathways position, which is a job training position. So like I stated before, I have a security clearance, which is required for every position in the State Department. Same security clearance. I have the same projects as my coworkers. I have less responsibility on some, more responsibility on others, but I'm an IEP, student trainee, information technology. So IEP means there's no end date to my specifically set end date to the end of my student trainee position. So upon graduation, I may be well, I don't think they want to lose this talent, but I may be converted to a civil service position. Unlike an ITEP, which is temporary, they set a specific date when that internship or student trainee position ends. So I've met some people that were confused about this, and they applied to temporary positions thinking they would be there maybe to the end of their academic career, and they were there for 4 months, and then they were separated, not because they did anything wrong, because there was an end date on their student trainee position. So that's something you specifically want to look at on USA Jobs when applying to something, a position like this. And this is across government. So GAO, DHS, DOJ, DOS, all of us have pathway positions, and some will be ITEP, which is temporary, and some will have an expiration date of your graduation date, which is IEP. So it's something specific you want to know about.
So there
Yes,
are
ma'am.
a couple great questions in the chat. So one is about U.S. citizenship. I'm under the impression that you have to be a current U.S. citizen, not just in that application status to apply to any of these State Department opportunities, correct?
I want to say I'm 99% sure you have to be a U.S. citizen, but that's something I haven't come across, so that's knowledge that I may not have. I can look that up and follow up with you, Ms. Gigi,
Okay.
and if you want to follow up with that person. But I'm pretty sure you have to be a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, we have a huge number of permanent residents that are have especially immigrated to the United States because we are IRC destination city. And so, but that's from my understanding, to be able to apply to U.S. State Department positions, you have to have your U.S. citizenship. But we'll get clarification about that, especially for especially for the internships. I don't know, Alina, do you know anything about that situation?
Yeah, I believe for the internships, you also have to have U.S. citizenship because when I applied, they did ask for it. Yeah, and I think it is important to have U.S. citizenship.
Right. But somebody tied into that question I asked about a security clearance. From my understanding, the remote virtual student federal service internships do not require U.S. security clearance, but they do require U.S. citizenship. And then the other question that they had was, Vegas, if you move to a permanent position, does your GS level remain the same or does it increase?
So for me, my GS will increase. The way this position was designed, it was GS7, which was a step down from the last position I had. But I mean, for the possibility of a career with DOS, which is, as people say, really competitive. I hate that language. But there are a lot of people that work here or that came out of university with master's degrees similar to mine, and they accepted GS3 positions, which is, I think, high school. And just because they want to work for DOS. So there's a lot of people that want to work here, and they will forego some money or title or status just to work for this department. And it's worth it. It's a great place to work.
It is actually. I didn't really share initially. I actually did State Department experience for about 5 years, and that was where it was. Yes, I accepted a lower GS level for my initial position, partly just to land the job and get the experience, and then it went up from when having more experience. I have another great question about graphic designer illustrators opportunities. The virtual student federal service internship does have opportunities for graphic designers because a lot of these different agencies look for that kind of support. And so that's where when you go to it, you have to apply by the 31st of July. And there are some opportunities that as of at the middle of July didn't even have a single applicant. And that is something that I know sometimes when you watch the video that the State Department does, that they do talk how competitive it is. But that's where I was and Vegas was so wonderful to share with us that there are some internships that in the middle of July didn't even have a single applicant. And so graphic designers are not hugely available out there. So, but that's where graphic designers do need to have a really great portfolio, because they, and the virtual student federal service internships are volunteer and unpaid, and you do need to be registered in school to be able to take advantage of those internships. So, and I think you need to be registered for at least 6 credit hours. I don't think you have to be a full-time student, but I think you have to be registered for 6 credit hours. Is that correct, Vegas? Do you remember?
I apologize. I keep muting myself. Yes, part-time status, depending whatever part-time status is at that school. So that would be 6 credits for PVCC.
Great. So I'll just sit back to you and talk about the other opportunities. It looks like, well, wait, we got another question in the chat. Let's see, what are the paid opportunities to be employed by the State Department beyond the internship program? Is that purely, is that purely contract work? When it comes to graphic design, and I'll definitely follow up with being, because these guys aren't graphic designers, so they're not going to have a huge amount of information about that specific route. I'm happy to work with you to help connect you potentially to people who have done, because you're right, a lot of contract work does happen in government agencies, but there's also a lot of times they have in-house folks because technically it's more affordable to do in-house type of hiring than contracted work, but that it varies. But that's why they do love to tap into students. So actually, you can follow, the student asking that can follow up with me directly about that. Okay. Okay. So go, Vegas. Let's go back to you and talking about the many different things that are available.
Definitely. And I do want to point out that there are people in federal service that started with one agency, worked there for years, and then moved to another agency. So please don't, State Department is an awesome place. There's a finite number of positions here. Please do fall in love with the State Department because we do great work, but don't only fall in love with the State Department. If there's a position at GAO, which is less popular than every other organization, but another great place to work. I think they make the list of best places to work in the federal government multiple times every year. But people are not, they don't make movies about GAO. And I don't know why they're not as popular. But if you want to start your career at another department within the federal government and then move to State Department later, it happens. Don't be discouraged. We definitely need you. But another point I want to make on this slide before I move to the next one, there's a section that says, keep me informed. If you click on that and input your email address, I think they also ask for your name, and then they ask specifically what information you want, you can get on a listserv and have updates sent to your email address versus going on USA Jobs when you have time to search for a position. So I use that as part of my process when I was looking for positions. So that's something I definitely wanted to point out. So the next opportunity we have is the U.S. Foreign Service Internship Program, or USF-SIP. So with this position during the summers, you work at U.S. embassies or consulates abroad. Great opportunity. You get some short amount of training, 3 weeks for academic training, and then you get a 10-week assignment. So these are during the summer. You can apply for this as a community college student. I don't know why that information isn't more widely known, but as a sophomore, you can apply for this program. You need a 3.2 GPA or higher. It's a great opportunity. There's not many organizations that are going to send you abroad to do work that actually matters. You're not getting coffee work as a sophomore. So this is a great opportunity to take advantage of because it's a great opportunity to take advantage of because there's not many like this. So once again, 3.2 GPA is very important. So take your classes serious, take challenging classes, take them serious, and you'll be well on your way. The next program I want to speak about is the Charles B. Rangel International Affairs Program. There's the Rangel Fellowship Program, which is a route into foreign service, but there's also a summer enrichment program that, once again, I don't think many people talk about. The requirement for this, once again, sophomore status. It's a great opportunity. It's a summer learning experience in Washington, D.C. I think you're housed at Howard University, which is very close to everything in Washington, D.C. It's a great opportunity. Once again, you should definitely look into this. You can apply as a community college student. The last fellowship I want to definitely speak about, because it's relatively new and it's very important. It's the FIT Foreign Affairs IT Fellowship. This is another route into foreign service, so FSO, but specifically for IT, information technology, cybersecurity. You can apply as a sophomore as long as you intend on matriculating into a four-year university, which is a requirement for this program, but you can apply before you get accepted. And once you are accepted, they will cover the cost of your the last 2 years of your bachelor's degree. There's also, if you already have your bachelor's degree, they'll cover the cost of your graduate degree, IT related or cybersecurity related. It's a very new program. We need more people in IT hence why I'm working there. And it's a great opportunity. It's a pathway to foreign service, and you should definitely take advantage of it. And lastly is VSFS. I am not an expert on this program, but we do have an expert on the line, and I will defer to her.
So Alina, actually we have a twin Vegas actually that he goes by Andre Luck. So Andre, I don't know if you're there. Did you have he is a PVCC's Career Services Manager. Did you have a question, Andre?
I do not have a question. I just joined in though.
Oh, okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's great to have you here.
Good to
Okay.
be here.
Okay, so Alina, if you don't mind talking about the VSFS, which is a big thing that I've been pushing all week all month in the weekly e-newsletter, just because it's such a great way to get experience and add to your resume, make amazing connections with different, and then of course there are internships in huge number of different government agencies, not just the State Department. The State Department, from my understanding, is like kind of the overseer of this broader opportunity that is a volunteer type of experience, but it has it for multiple agencies. Because I had somebody ask in the chat about community health. I had somebody else ask about graphic design. So that's why in the e-newsletter that it's welcome to anybody to subscribe to, that I talked about, hey, there's a little bit of everything, a little bit of something for everybody. So Alina, let you talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think VSFS, the good thing about it that, as you mentioned, it has a variety of opportunities, not just for like technology or just for political aspects of it, but it has like all kinds of opportunities. And so I remember when I was applying for the VSFS, I actually heard it through you. Gigi, that you mentioned. So I applied through USA Jobs, and I believe there was an application, and in that application you are also required to write an essay of about like 500 words or so. And so I applied for it, and I didn't hear back actually until like September, even though we were supposed to hear back here sooner than that. But I heard about from them around September or December. And then I started VSFS as an data analyst, even though that was not my forte. I've been mostly like in nonprofits and like international things. So I haven't really actually done anything with like data analysis and like technology and all that. But this was a really great experience because it pushed me to challenge myself, as Vegas mentioned in his presentation, to push yourself and challenge yourself. And that's one of the things that it did to me. And because of the VSFS, I actually took a computer science class at UVA as well, which I had never thought I would take it. So it was great that first of all, that it had that impact on me. But second of all, VSFS is a great opportunity. I did it from December until May of this year. And we did a lot of data analysis and like codings and stuff like that. So it was a really great opportunity that pushed me and challenged me to come out of my comfort zone. And also there were other multiple opportunities within the internship that there were students, who had tons of information and talents with technology and like different computer languages. So they also offered, courses for us to take, or like a few sessions for us to familiarize ourselves with like Python and like other languages. And I actually took advantage of that opportunity. And we did about 3 or 4 sessions with another student who was a lead student in that project. And so they would help us, learn the basic skills in like Python and like other languages as well. So that was another great opportunity. I actually got a certificate from that as well. So I think that's a bonus and a plus for that as well, to go ahead and apply. And I do believe that it's a little bit I would say hard for students to consider, since it's unpaid, and you do have to work about 10 hours or so per week. But I would definitely say that it's worth it. It definitely gives you a lot of experience. in whatever field that you're interested in, or even if you're not, they push you to challenge yourself and go to fields that you never thought, like I did, that I never thought I would do something like data analysis. Like that was never what I thought, but here I am. I did that internship with that for about 6 months or so. So I definitely encourage you guys to give it a go and see how you can like it. But I definitely think that it's a great opportunity, especially that as a student, this sort of opportunities are very helpful and important in our journey moving forward. So if you guys have any more questions, please feel free to ask.
Great, thank you for that overview. Because that's where, did you only apply to one? Because I thought I heard that you could apply to 3 different opportunities that were in there listed in their database. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. I actually applied to 3 positions that were completely different. And also, please don't get discouraged if you don't hear back from them. They might have more opportunities later on that they can get back to you, because I was initially, I initially had to hear back from them around August, in the beginning of August, but I didn't hear back until September, close to December. So when I first applied, I applied to 3 different positions that were like in other countries. Like one was in Turkey, and I can't remember the other 2, but they were mostly like nonprofits or working with schools and stuff. So I actually didn't even choose the data analysis, but because my application was already on file and they saw my resume and all that, and so they were like, we have another opportunity that since you didn't hear back from the other 3 that you applied, we have more opportunities available to you if you're interested in. And obviously I selected that and went for data analyst.
Cool. So I do have another question that's great in the chat is, how different is a normal resume from a federal resume in terms of these internship programs? And so, Alina, did you use a federal resume or did you use a normal resume, a 1-pager?
Yeah, I just used my normal resume that I used to apply for other positions. I just used that one.
But it's a great point, because a federal resume can be 2, 3, 4 pages about everything. And there are some great resources out there about the differences between a federal resume and a regular, business / whatever kind of resume. Because usually people sell themselves short for government opportunities if they use a 1-page resume that we typically say. And actually, depending on what you're targeting, like oftentimes I was just saying to Alina earlier that her resume, knowing what she did at Charlottesville High School, then at PVCC, and now at UVA, it's going to be really hard for her to keep to a 1-page resume. But Vegas, what kind of tips do you have about that?
Oh, I would definitely say for a federal resume, add every job that you ever had. If you scooped ice cream in high school, I don't know what federal position that could be related to, but the possibility does exist. As I stated before, my background is emergency management. So there's this thing called continuity of operations. That's part A of what we do in the National Nuclear Risk Reduction Center. And I had a little bit of IT experience. Their thinking was, I can teach him more IT, but he already knows continuity of operations, and we need that. So that was in my resume multiple times. So for a federal resume, every volunteer job you did, every summer job you had, if you don't have a ton of experience, add everything that you did. I mean, don't embellish, but your responsibilities and outcomes and things like that. For a federal resume on USA Jobs, add everything.
That's a great point, because that is one of those things. And I love how you just said that they can teach you IT. That I hear that consistently from employers, is that we can teach you the hard skills, but it's this other broader perspective and soft skills that they are also looking for, that they don't feel like they can as easily teach as Python, like Alina got to learn. Just like,
that's correct.
Okay, Cool. There is no restriction. So that's where, yes, somebody said there's no restriction to say one page. Yes, on a federal resume, it does not need to be one page. It can be 2 pages, it can be 3 pages. You just want to still make it very readable. You want to make it impactful with using great action verbs, quantifying whenever possible, highlighting results of whatever that you've been doing. And that, don't just keep repeating the same thing over and over. And that's where both Andrea, Luck, and I can work with students to help make you, and an alumni, to make sure that your resume is strong for whatever you're targeting. So go ahead, Vegas.
If I can add one thing to that, and that's great advice. If like continuity of operations again, there's the term continuity of operations, and then the abbreviation is COOP. If there's a term and an abbreviation, make sure you put the term and the abbreviation, because it gets reviewed by a person, unlike most people think that an applicant tracking system reviews applications. It actually gets reviewed by a person, but sometimes that person is not an expert on the field. So if they're looking for COOP versus continuity of operations or vice versa, it may get missed. So if it's an abbreviation for what you've done before, make sure to put both the whole word or phrase and the abbreviation.
That's an incredible tip, because yes, the government is known for acronyms. And that's where, especially quite a few of us, NINJIC is a big popular target, especially for cybersecurity. And that's where, the NINJIC is like the State Department. There is actually a human being that's looking at those resumes, and they're looking for KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. And that's where you really want to fully flesh it out, because then the person looking at it is actually in Texas and not even here in Charlottesville. And that's whenever you can take advantage of a real human to human event, which NINJIC actually does with Virginia CareerWorks, and that's why it's so great that Vegas is going to be here and PVCC and our student center from 1:30 to 2:30 this afternoon to be able to talk with people in person, because really having those people connections. And that's one of the questions I have for you, Vegas. And I know, Alina, you've done some of this, is what about LinkedIn? How does LinkedIn help with this whole process of getting connected with career opportunities?
Oh, okay, I'll take this one. LinkedIn is an awesome tool. It will used correctly. It gives you the opportunity to reach out to people, and as long as you're not immediately asking for a job in the first message, I think if you ask, what was your route to this position, or is graduate school required? Can I do this position with just an associate's degree? As long as you're asking questions like that, I think most people see that as a low lift, and they would be willing to answer your question and probably go further, because you're not on the first message, hey, do you have any jobs open? Can you get me a job? I know other student vets that have approached LinkedIn like that, and they've been met with crickets and been ghosted because they're asking for too much. And then they get discouraged and they delete their accounts. I think it's an awesome tool if it's used correctly, and you should definitely reach out to people, because I think most people are willing to help young students that are up and coming, because they see themselves in you when they were in your shoes.
I totally agree. And I want to reiterate that, don't just hit people for a job, but ask them about what they like about what they do, what they feel are the challenges with what they're pursuing. Just get that conversation going, help build that relationship. Plus, there are lots of great jobs that are featured on LinkedIn that you will not see on Indeed.com. I get employers who get frustrated with Indeed.com. And so they'll actually, because they want more of a filter for professionals, that they'll post on LinkedIn, but they won't post on Indeed. So that's where there's always more than one way to do your job search. And that's where the proactive way, we're talking with great people like Vegas and Alina, and proactive rather than just the reactive about waiting for a job listing to cross your desk. Because that's the thing, is that, that's where Alina had mentioned about having to write an essay. So the more you know about a particular organization or program or particular job, that the better you will be able to write that statement. And can you talk a little bit about that personal statement, Alina?
Yeah, of course. I wanted to first touch base about networking on LinkedIn. I also definitely think it's a great way to network and get to know more people. I've actually been doing that personally myself, especially doing like informative interview of the routes that I want to go. Like, for example, I'm interested in like like political, like international careers, or also like law schools. Like, I'm not really sure about those things, but I've learned a lot of techniques on LinkedIn that you can go and like chat or interview students, or alums from different law schools, or like any other people that you come across in their profile. And if you're interested in the career path that they have taken, you can definitely message them and like interview them like informatively, to just get information for yourself, not just for the sake of getting a job, but also learning more about their opportunities, and learning more about their experiences, and see like what they've done, and like how can you best based on their experiences, how can you plan your career path. So I definitely think that it's a great way to connect and get to know more people. But about the essay, it's been a while. It's been over a year that I wrote that personal essay, but it was basically just like any other personal statements to talk about, why you want to get this position, or like why are you interested in, working with the State Department, and like what sort of experiences you've had. So basically, just introducing yourself in a formal way, so that they get to know more about some of your experiences and how they've shaped you, and how qualified you are for the positions that you're applying to.
Great, thanks. And so I had somebody ask about getting y'all's contact information, and I suggested, hey, connect with them on LinkedIn, because you both are on LinkedIn. But if you feel comfortable sharing your contact information afterwards, just let me know, and I will share that with people who ask me for that. Okay, so Vegas, was there other information that you wanted to share? Because it was a great presentation. I know we're getting close to the hour, so I just thought, and that's what I would thought I'd tell the participants, if you got some questions, make sure to put them in the chat. I'm just looking at my list of questions. Oh, I do have a list of a question. What do you suggest about that people should not do who are applying to these kinds of opportunities?
Oh, I can give you disqualifiers really quickly. And I hate to be fun police, but the federal government still has not dropped the marijuana use like some states have. So for federal positions, if you are an avid recent smoker of marijuana, that will disqualify you. I know there's a possibility if years ago you did and you quit and you can prove that you quit, which is difficult. I would say just don't do that. Excessive use of alcohol. I lived in Charlottesville. I had fun like every other undergrad, but there's a limit. And if you're getting DUIs and there's records of your alcohol use out there in the world, that is not going to look well for your security clearance. And once again, for State Department, less the VSFS program, you're required to have at least a secret security clearance. So excessive use of alcohol, it's a strange one, but international travel and not keeping track of the people that you've met, because once again, for your security clearance, they want to know that you're not a risk to any information that you receive when you do your job. So if you're traveling and going places, if you travel to one country, then you cross the border and you didn't get your passport stamped and you can't like prove what you were doing at that time, I'm not saying that's necessarily going to be a ding, but that may get your application for your clearance looked at a little bit harder. So definitely don't smoke marijuana. Don't engage in too much risky behavior related to alcohol. And if you do go abroad, make sure you keep a list of the people you met, the dates you were there. Yeah, that would be my top 3.
Yeah, and actually a quick little side to that security clearance for the ones that do. Of course, the virtual student federal service does not require security clearance, but when an opportunity does, how much time does that add to the application timeline? Because from NINJIC, NINJIC will say, hey, sure, you can apply and then we'll pay for you that security clearance, but it adds anywhere from 8 to 12 months to the application process. Vegas, can you touch about that?
So this is another thing that COVID has not helped with. So that 12 is turned into 16 or 18, depending on the position, if it's secret, top secret. It helps if you're younger and you've done less traveling, which is interesting for a foreign service organization. But if you're a younger applicant and you've done less traveling and you have no criminal history at all, it would be a lot shorter. I mean, it's not a guarantee. Generally, it's a lot shorter. But if you're someone like me, a student veteran, I've been abroad related to my job and abroad related to studying academically, my security clearance took a while. But once again, it was worth it because it's a great organization. But I mean, you have to weigh that. If 18 months is too long to wait, if that happens like that, then maybe you want to look at a government organization that doesn't require a security clearance.
Great, thank you. And there's another great question in the chat. So how much support did you get from the people organizing your internship position, Alina? Because you saw a great opportunity with international tourism and it looked like it was a team project. And, like she was wondering how much direction the intern would get, like how much support, direction, management that would the intern get during that I don't know how much you interacted with others on your team.
Yeah, that's definitely a great question. I was actually in a team of about 12 to 15 other students, and we had 2 team leads that were actually graduate students, but the rest of all students or interns were all undergraduate students, like myself. And so we actually had meetings every week for about close to an hour. And so whenever we had any questions or like any concerns, we would raise it in that meeting. But we also had another channel of communication called Slack. And so we would, message our team leads or like any other team members that we were on the same team with any questions or concerns that we had. So we definitely had a team network. And so we definitely, asked questions and network with each other like constantly. They were actually open. They actually encouraged us to network and get to know more people on our team. So I definitely say that it varies from one team to another because our team was the smallest, I would say, but there was another team that had about 30 students in it. So it just depends on how many people are in your team. But we had a smaller number of students in our team, and we were pretty close. And but nonetheless, we all met once a week, and we raised any questions or concerns that we had. So it was pretty cool that we had team leads, and they were available all the time. Like even when we had questions, that was like a few days before the meeting that we had, we would just message them on Slack and they would get back to us immediately. So I would definitely say that it was a great teamwork that we had. Yeah.
Cool. So I know we're running out of time, but I have a quick question about, so knowing what you know today, having gone through what you've gone, what would you tell yourself when you were at PVCC, knowing what you know today? What do you wish you had known when you were a community college student? I know it's a convoluted question, but
I can take it away, sure. So I first of all wanted to say to your earlier question, Gigi, also I wanted to say students not to get discouraged. Like that is my, that is my the thing that I always say to myself, and like I always try to encourage myself that, and support myself, that like never get discouraged, especially when I was applying for this internship. I applied to 3 different ones and I didn't hear back from any of them until like I was waiting until September, and I still didn't hear back, and I was like, okay, I definitely didn't get it. And so I was actually so disappointed because I put a lot of effort in the application and all that. But then afterwards, like around close to December or late this September, I heard back from them with this opportunity. And so I definitely would say that not to get discouraged. But when I was at PVCC, I always used to, stress a lot about where I will end up eventually. Like that is definitely what I'm dealing with, even now a little bit. But I've gotten much better than since I've graduated from high school and PVCC, that I've left PVCC. I definitely would say that not to stress a lot. Definitely like this whole career thing and like education, everything is a journey. So like it definitely takes you, as Vegas mentioned, like it takes you like into different routes, and like just embrace all of them and just go with the flow, and you'll definitely find something that works out for you. So
Thank you. Vegas, what about you?
I would definitely say when I was here, I thought of my career as, let's see, I'm going to get my associates in police science. I'm going to matriculate into UVA. I'm going to apply to the FBI. I'm going to become an FBI agent. And it was just a straight line. And I am so happy that it didn't work out like that. Funny enough, I did take the test for the FBI. I passed. I had a job offer and actually turned it down. And if I told my freshman self that, or sophomore self that, his head would explode. So nonlinear, just your career is going to go like this, and if you fight it, you're fighting a losing battle. I don't know anyone my age that has a career progression like that. And definitely, it's a terrible analogy, but I think about a career like pizza. Your good crust is your education. Cheese on top of that crust is a good GPA, because some positions will require that. Interning, I was vehemently against interning. I'm like, if I give you my labor, I want you to pay for my labor. But I had ended up interning after I graduated from my first master's degree program. So I still ended up interning. I worked on a DARPA project at the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism. I didn't get paid for my work, and I got an opportunity to do some awesome research that was actually used in projects. So interning is the topping on that pizza. So you want a good foundation, you want a good GPA, and sometimes you're going to have to intern, unless you like cheese pizza. But that's what I definitely tell my PVCC self. If I need to build a time machine to go do this.
Those are great tips, and that's where I oftentimes, because as being the job an internship coordinator, and I have students that are juggling family and school and a job, and it's really hard to add an unpaid internship on top of that. But that's where sometimes when it, some unpaid, obviously not this VSFS, that sounds like that's 10 hours a week, but sometimes unpaid internships you can do for just 5 hours a week. And sometimes it's worth it just to get those connections, to get an addition to your resume. If it's something that's geared toward a portfolio, especially graphic design, you get great portfolio material. Somebody did ask a great question, and thank you for doing that. Is there harm to applying if you are accepted, but then realize you don't have the availability? And what would you all say? Personally, I would say no. As long as you decline it in a professional and kind of manner, but that's where you don't just disappear on them.
Definitely. I wouldn't ghost any federal HR people. Their community is really small and they're tight knit, and I think SHRM is their accrediting agency. So they have meetings and they're close, and you don't want people talking about you because you ghosted them. So I would not recommend that. I would definitely examine your choice before you make it. If you're only available for 16 hours, I would take those 16 hours, because the process of applying, having your application reviewed, and then them choosing you, that's a long process. So that you have to go through that again if you apply again. So if you applied for something and they give you the option of full-time or part-time, I would examine the part-time to see if you can make that work without messing up your entire schedule, and then take that 16, because you're building work experience, you're meeting people, so you're networking, and you're doing your job well, hopefully, because you went to PVCC and they didn't play on your education. So if you're only getting 16 hours a week of experience every week for 52 weeks, that's better than anyone with 0.
Great. And so, I had, my brother works for NASA, and he actually, when he has done wonderful webinars like you guys are doing right now, he has said, sometimes it's good to put your education on hold to do a co-op. And so depending on the kind of government organization you're targeting, some organizations have what they call a cooperative program, that you put school on hold and do the co-op as a full-time job for that semester, or sometimes it's even longer than a semester. And he did that with NASA, and that he credits that as his major entryway into, and now he's been with NASA for 30 years. But so anyway, so these were all amazing. Any last questions? We're at the 101 mark. If I don't see any more, did you guys have any other last minute remarks, Alina or Vegas?
I just wanted to plug another thing for VSFS, that sometimes they even let you speak to your school and get some credits for the internship that you're doing. Maybe that'll be a compensation for not getting paid. That, like, besides, networking and getting to know more people and other opportunities within it, you might even, there's a possibility of getting some credits for the work that you do. So maybe consider that as well when you're applying to VSFS.
That's a huge point. And that's where, if you're interested in that for PVCC, if you're targeting a transfer program, we would not want to take your money for those credits, because it won't transfer to a 4-year college. But there are some of our programs that allow an internship for credit to apply towards your graduation requirements, like cybersecurity. So if that's where, it definitely would be a way that you could get that kind of compensation. So Alina, thank you so much for bringing that up. Vegas, any other last minute?
I would definitely say get on LinkedIn and push career services to have a headshot day and get them to pay for that. I don't know if they would, but definitely get on LinkedIn. Definitely use it. When you reach out to people, send them a message. And, like I said, don't ask for a job, but ask, for opinions and help. Definitely sign up for alerts at career.state.gov. You would get you get emails to your inbox for positions versus searching. That's really helpful. And just try to network at TVCC, because maybe there's another person that's interested in working in DC. And if 2 people got an apartment in DC, which would make the burden less for both of you, that helps you. Your career progresses further, because there's so much opportunity in the national capital region, as they call it. So you're already at a tight-knit school. Talk to your other students. Maybe there's somebody else that's interested in foreign or international development, foreign service, what have you, and you just don't know them. So network within the walls of PVCC.
And that is where LinkedIn comes in handy, because when you stipulate that you went to PVCC, you can find other alumni or current students that are going to PVCC. So that's another reason to use LinkedIn. And we actually do a LinkedIn photo booth here at PVCC. I'm the photographer. So we have a lot of fun. We'll probably be doing that once a semester, unless I can find once a month, unless I can find a devoted space that I could just say, hey, we can do it any day, just show up looking nice. And we actually have a clothes closet where we can even dress you to look professionally for your photo show, for your photo for LinkedIn. So anyway, thank you all so much. This has been so extremely helpful. I look forward to posting it on YouTube and sharing it with students who couldn't make it, especially whenever I highlight these kinds of opportunities. This will live on with being able, it was so educational and so helpful. And I thank all the participants who came and asked your amazing questions. So, and of course, that's where Andre Luck and I are available here at PVCC to help both current students and alumni to get connected with wonderful opportunities like this. So thank you so much. Oh yeah, so basically somebody said, how can we find y'all on LinkedIn? Just go to linkedin.com and search for Alina Hadari and Vegas Curry. I think they're probably the only two with very distinctive names like that. And of course, connect with me. I've been around town for a long time, so I have a lot of connections. So, and then the more you connect with people, the more somebody becomes a first or second level. You do not need to pay for the premium to really get some great benefits from LinkedIn. So I would say only pay for the LinkedIn premium if you want. A, you always get a month for free, and then B, only pay for it after that month if you really need to use it for LinkedIn Learning, or you're really going to try to communicate. A lot of times you can find people's email addresses pretty easily outside of LinkedIn. So, but it's a great way to find who all is working where. That might be a great resource to build to help you build your career. So thank you all. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording right now, and then I'll say goodbye to you guys separately from the recording. Okay, so just one sec. Oops.